And again, for food justice is like part of the anti-war movement, part of the peace movement. Because, well, for one thing, they're really poisoning us. These GMOs, they don't really test them. They don't know what they'll do to us. They cause a lot of problems. Like they might be they make rats and mice like infertile in the second and third generation after they've ingested them. And the glyphosate is poison. It's like recognized as a carcinogen. That's the main ingredient in Roundup, and it's being used so much. It's in our water. It's even gets in our organic food because the Roundup is like so prevalent. And now they have this thing called CRISPR, where they're just editing genes in plants and with not adding new genes. So that's just as dangerous, but there's even less regulation of that, and they're going to start like selling us food that's produced by CRISPR, like without any testing or regulation of it. And so what I was saying about the peace movement and anti-imperialism is that you know the reason for all these wars is to like allow like Western corporations to control countries around the world and to run the world. And a lot of countries don't allow GMOs and Monsanto in. Like Russia banned GMOs, so that's part of the reason for all this Russiagate stuff and this like rush to war against Russia is that Russia banned GMOs. Like there was the U.S. government did the coup in Ukraine and installed a Nazi government in Ukraine so that they could bring Monsanto in to grow GM corn and crops in Ukraine. And some of the Monsanto chemicals have even been used as chemical weapons, like Agent Orange in Vietnam, like, you know, is still killing people, causing birth defects in Vietnam. But it was really like chemical warfare against Colombia. In Africa, they like try to bring in genetically modified crops, and countries that don't agree to it, they go on TV and they say that Sudan, for instance, was refusing to accept food aid because they wouldn't accept Frankenfood crops, but really they were trying to protect their agricultural system. So, like I said, this is part of the peace movement, and that's why we're out here against Monsanto. I'll give the mic back to Margaret to announce the next speaker.
Yay! Thank you, David, and thank you for all that you've done to put this together. And thank you very much to the Committee for Peace and Human Rights. You guys have been awesome to work with. Our next speaker is Bill Zimbrello. He's a Democratic candidate for Congress, and he's an environmental scientist. Bill?
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you, everyone, for having me here. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity. And fortunately, we don't have the best weather here, but we'll make the best of it.
Oh, really?
Yep. As Margaret said, my name is Bill Zimbrello. I'm running for U.S. Congress in the 9th Congressional District here in Massachusetts, and that covers much of the South Shore, the Cape, and the islands. And I do have a background as an environmental chemist, and I've always been very deeply passionate about our ecosystems, about the water we drink, about the air we breathe, and about the food we eat. But you don't need to be a chemist to realize that a chemical like glyphosate, which is sold under the name of Roundup, is poisonous. After every study that Monsanto has paid for every single one of those studies, there are another dozen studies that have shown that the compound glyphosate may be poisonous or is inconclusive. Moreover, due to the secretive nature of the formulations in the sprays being used, it may very well be that some of the other constituents in the spray may be more dangerous than the glyphosate itself. We know from experience that too much of a good thing may actually turn into a bad thing. It's true of antibacterial soaps that have caused bacteria to mutate to stronger resistant strains. It's true of our fossil fuel-driven cars that emit millions of tons of greenhouse gases. And it's true about a nation bent on empire building under the guise of spreading democracy. And it's also true about this little compound we've come to know as glyphosate. You see, like the bacteria building up an immune system to the soaps, so too have the weeds built up immunity to glyphosate. This has left the farmers with little option but to use greater amounts of this spray or go to stronger sprays. And in fact, in the 1990s, Monsanto is introduced genetically engineered corn and soy specifically to be able to better withstand their own poison. Since then, glyphosate sales have skyrocketed, and instead of solving the weed problem,
thank you,
Monsanto has made commercial farmers dependent, if not addicted, to the chemicals and the engineered crops.
commenting.
Monsanto has created a global market for a suspected carcinogen
It's YouTube.
that has entered our food chain,
You can see, like, look.
water supply,
Normally during my
and
broadcast, I
our air.
have about 200 people watching. 32.
Yet our concerns
Yeah.
have largely been ignored, haven't they?
So people just
It may
don't care about
surprise you to
GMOs
know
anymore.
that in the last 10 years, Monsanto, in addition to spraying billions of gallons of weed killer, has also sprayed Congress with over $4 million of hush money. By keeping Congress flushed with campaign cash, they ensure a never-ending amount of selective hearing. From their corporate puppets, they have gotten the silent treatment that they wanted on us. We see this over and over again. The corporate influence of greed that shaped domestic and foreign policy endeavors. Yesterday, we learned of yet another tragic school shooting where 10 mostly young and innocent lives were taken from their loving parents and their communities. Yet again, we still allow corporate and special interests to continue to paralyze government and not even allow the most fundamental changes to our nation's outdated gun laws. We must forever ban the sale of assault rifles
What does that have to do
to
with
everyone in the
Monsanto?
United States, and also know who owns these and why. And I believe strongly that we must begin to treat mental health as seriously as we would any heart attack. President Trump has not drained the swamp as he promised. Instead, he has filled the swamp with a variety of creatures that defy our imagination. And not too surprisingly, the rapid turnover at the White House suggests that we should retrofit the front door with a revolving door. He has made America hate, not great. And he has made more Americans hated around the world by his irresponsible actions in Jerusalem and his tactless actions of conducting military exercises during delicate negotiations with North Korea and his mindless rejection of the Iran nuclear deal. He has put American lives and American interests in grave peril. Mr. Trump, the ultimate bull in the china closet. And I do emphasize the bull. However, events like this one fill me with great hope that we are at a major turning point in America. Many of you out tonight, despite the weather, make me realize that this nation slowly is coming around to saying that enough is enough. There are thousands of people like us who are awake, who know that we are being lied to, that are stepping up to run for office at a local, state, and federal level.
Independent of both parties.
Very true.
Both imperialist parties. Democrat and Republican. They both supported Monsanto.
People ask me, why am I running for office? My reasons should be very obvious. Status quo is destroying the American dream. The status quo has created a nation where more than half of us are earning less than $30 million a year. The status quo has made medical care.
Oh, hey, what's up, Mike?
Jobs
How you doing, bro?
affordable, and a college education, not a path to knowledge and financial security,
Got enough out here
but
for
a
you?
path to a lifetime of
Brains
debt,
are messed too.
financial certainty.
Tax Harvard.
This time in our nation's history, there are thousands of Monsantos.
This guy took his GMO to gun laws and shit. Dude, that was talking
Our
about.
faith
Every
instead
American
of
should have a gun. What the fuck?
we don't need Roundup.
Hand in the
The
mouth.
chat is killing him right now.
Roundup.
Oh my god, it
Government. Roundup.
Hand out 80% lower
I
resistance.
can't change this by myself. None of us can. Together, we can be instruments of change. There are other grassroots candidates just like myself who also will not accept corporate donations. Once in Congress, we will work together to be your voice, not the voice of the Monsantos or the billionaire class. We know we can't win against the established parties by beating them dollar for dollar. But we can win by spreading our message with your help and your support. Please come find me here or my team members, wear your pin, or visit billsombrello.com to find out more, donate, sign up, and volunteer. And I hope all feel as I do that the status quo is not enough. Thank you very much.
Very nice. Cheers. Yay.
Thank you, Bill. And Bill is a Democratic candidate for U.S.
Democrat.
Congress in the 9th District.
The hell
Very
with both
nice.
parties.
Yes.
There. Yeah, unfortunately, it's really hard for any elected official to be against Monsanto. They get shunned and sneered at best. I want everyone to know we have some food and water up here. Thanks to
I'm actually going to be
Dan and
talking
Food
here
for
soon,
Activists.
so
Thank you, Dan, for bringing that.
I'm not going
Keeping
to
us fed.
go into gun laws because this has nothing to do with that, and I don't want to divide the crowd and all that. So
And to introduce our next speaker, I have another one of the march's organizers, Dean Fougere.
oh shit, that's me. I'm up.
Shit, bro.
You guys want
I
to film
got
this
you.
one? All right, sweet.
Thank you for your help in organizing this.
I didn't actually really organize anything, but I just tried to help raise awareness for this. So thank you all for being here. I guess it's fitting that it's raining today because we're kind of in the same situation where the world's already coming to an end, and we're the ones who've already built the ark, and we're trying to tell everyone else to come on in and be like, hey, don't eat that GMO stuff or else you're all gonna die. And they don't want to hear it, but here we are in our own little ark, I guess. So it's kind of similar in that regard. Sorry, I'm not used to holding a mic, but thank you so much for coming here. One of the biggest issues we face is obviously the tentacles between the big corporate overstructures and our own government. We can see these things in plain day, as you know, we've exposed as things like senior executive services, which is a pay grade above the G15 pay grade, where people like Michael Taylor are appointed to positions like the head of the FDA, even though they have absolutely no right to be appointed as such, and their only actual expertise is being, ex-Monsanto employees. So this is the big problem we have. We have revolving door between, corporate America and the government, and it's become to a point where the government is now fascist. The definition of fascism is when corporations run the government or in cooperation with the government, and that's what we have. So we need a hard system reset. We can't just go to the normal left-right divide stuff that has ripped this country apart for so long. We can't let this thing about GMOs get sidetracked into some sort of left-right political thing when it has nothing to do with that. This is about saving everyone in society. This is about our health, our future, and it's about holding a company accountable for their actions. The Monsanto Protection Act is ridiculous. It has absolutely no place in America. Monsanto's products have no place in America, and everyone needs to know that. And they should be held accountable for their actions just like everyone else. If they infect an organic farm with their crap, they should be sued for the other way around. And that's what we're here protesting today. There's a reason GMOs were banned overseas. It's because they know they're not good for us. Why are we still accepting this here in America? And it doesn't just go to like the food. The stuff's in everything. We're fighting down on the Cape with Laura Kelly, with Poker Cape Cod, to get them to stop spraying the power lines, which goes into the drinking water, which then we all drink.
Right.
And even if you filter it with a ceramic filter, it still is in your shower water. It's in, you go out, eat somewhere, it's in that water, it's in all the stuff that you wash your dishes with. Glyphosate's getting in everything. You can find trace elements of it pretty much everywhere in the world now. So it's time for this to stop. It's time to hold Monsanto accountable and end their nonsense. And it's not just, a problem for now, it's a future generation's problem. As someone alluded to earlier today, David said, when they did tests on this, mice in the next generation, 50% infertile, right? And then the next generation, 100% infertile. And the eugenicists that created these companies, like the Rockefellers and stuff like that, those guys who created this type of medicine love it. Because what? You all eat the GMOs, and then what happens? You all get sick, and then you need more of their pharmaceuticals. And the same companies that make the drugs make the food now. Right. It's like the guy who owns a window shop running around and breaking windows in the neighborhood. It's ridiculous.
It is that bad.
Okay, so this is what has to end, and that's all I wanted to say. The next person that's going to talk is Dr. Shiva, who I invited here because he's written, peer-reviewed articles, scientific journals and stuff on why GMOs are bad, about formaldehyde levels and all these other things. And he's running for Senate as someone who would go against the Monsanto Protection Act. So that's why he's going to speak, and I invite him on the stage.
Thanks, Dave. All right. Anyway, thanks for having me here. Listen, I grew up on a farm in India. Anyone been to India here? No. Okay, you have. My grandmother was a poor village farmer who'd work 16 hours days in the field, and that's how they sustained themselves. Well, those farms have been destroyed all over South India because of Monsanto. So this is a very personal thing for me. As Dean said, this is not a left or right issue. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is a human issue. And if you look at both of these political parties, the establishment is one. It's one devil with two faces. And we got to come to a conclusion on this as activists. For far too long, we've thought that the Democratic Party would take care of this. We clearly know the other party doesn't support this anyway. And the activist movement in the United States needs to break with both political parties on this issue, because neither of them support you or me. They support Monsanto. Okay, so this is a personal issue for me. So when I saw my grandmother heal people using traditional systems of medicine, that's what got me interested in medicine. I came here as a 7-year-old kid, went through the public school systems. By the time I was 14, I was doing medical research. Went to MIT, the military-industrial academic complex we all know about, right? The part of the deep state. Well, working at MIT gave me access to knowledge that most people do not have access to. And they're probably very upset that I have 4 degrees from that place, including my PhD in biological engineering. So how did I get involved in this? Well, you got to understand, in 2014, I was walking down the halls of MIT and I saw this front page article on the front page of Technology Review. I don't know if you know this. This is considered the most eminent technology magazine. And on the front page, do you know what it said? It said, "Buy fresh, buy GMOs." Buy fresh, buy GMOs, written by the institution that we are all supposed to bow down to because they're supposed to be the major technology and scientific institute in the United States, right? Well, I looked at this and I said, this is really weird. And I just finished my PhD, just come back from India on a Fulbright, had just created a new technology which allowed us to mathematically model molecular pathways and understand what's going on at the molecular level. And I was using it for helping herbs and other types of things. And I said, wait a minute, this is interesting. And by the way, as you read this article, it's a completely bullshit article. The article is basically a neo-missionary article written by the neo-missionaries like the Gates Foundation to tell all the darkies in India, me being a darkie, I can say that these people need GMOs. And if you read the article, it's completely bogus. Because the issue is not genetically engineered foods. The issue is that there's other fundamental issues of irrigation, etc. And the United States imperialists and globalists have destroyed the infrastructure of soil of other countries. Henry Kissinger said, if you want to control people, control their oil. But if you want to control a country, control oil. But if you want to control a people, control their soil. Now, that policy has been supported by, both Democrats and Republicans. We cannot trust either of these parties. Elizabeth Warren voted for the Monsanto Protection Act. She is not a fighter for you or me. She voted against Bernie's GMO labeling bill. And after we started attacking her, suddenly she says, now I'm going to stop the Monsanto-Bayer merger. Well, too little, too late, Elizabeth. All right? This movement needs to take off, and it needs to happen now. So let me tell you what I did. So we used our technology, which allows us to model molecular pathways, and we looked at, glyphosate is to those of you who don't know, glyphosate is the actual herbicide, which was created by Monsanto and Dow, the same company that created Agent Orange, all right, which was used to devastate not only the Vietnamese, but also our veterans who still are not taken care of. Well, that same company retooled that delivery engine to drop glyphosate on factory farms. Well, one of the important agricultural products that we have in the United States, 97% of the soy in the United States is genetically engineered. 97%, which occurs everywhere in our food supply. So we looked at soy, and what I did was very cleverly, because I knew if I published one paper, it would destroy me, right? I understand how scientists work. So we published the first paper where we showed that genetically engineered foods, we found out that in every plant, every bacterium, every fungi, there's a very particular system called C1 metabolism. I don't want to take you into too much science, but it's fundamentally a way how plants sequester carbon, and then they detoxify the process using a process called formaldehyde detoxification. Basically, every plant's like a little engine. You see, it has a very powerful antioxidant called glutathione, and it uses that to detox formaldehyde. So normal plants have high levels of this. Well, what our research showed was when they did the genetic insertion, that it actually perturbs the entire system. You have 256% less glutathione. And that's why formaldehyde levels have been reported in not only soy, but in also corn. Well, we know why that's being caused. Well, anyway, we published a series of 4 papers. Kevin Folta, who some of you may know of, is a horticulturist at the University of Florida State University, started attacking me. And
Guys attacked me too online. Kevin Folta and I have had full-on Twitter battles.
Emails came out showing that he was paid off by Monsanto. Here's the head of the horticultural department. What we live in right now is those universities across the river over there, MIT and Harvard, do fake science. The fake science that is used by the media to do fake news. You see, because journalists no longer do any type of reporting anymore. They cut and copy, and then it gets fossilized on Wikipedia. That's how it occurs. But I'll tell you, you're looking at someone who's put his time in. You know, I know science. That's a problem that MIT has and the military-industrial complex has. I know the fact that how the political systems work. If you guys have a chance, there's a movie I just did with that Pierce Brosnan just funded. It's called Poisoning Paradise. It's about the devastation of what's going on in the island of Kauai. Literally, the western part of the island has been destroyed. It's basically used as a testing ground by all the agro-biotech companies. And it's a great movie. I'm the main scientist in it discussing it. It's won 11 film awards. So to Dean's point, there's an opportunity for us to change. And you know, our campaign is not left or right. Last month, we did a free speech rally over there. The media characterized it as a Nazi rally. Okay, you're looking at a dark-skinned Indian guy. We talked about no to Monsanto. We talked about we need to end racism by the Democrats and the Republicans.
The black, white
That's where we're at, guys. The establishment is one. Let's stop having any type of illusions of the Democrats and Republicans. And the day we do that, this movement is going to grow. But anytime we think that Elizabeth Warren or some Republican is going to help us, you're out of your mind. Both of these parties support the military-industrial complex. Both of them get paid by it, and both of them profit from it. So I like what you said, but you got to dump the Democratic Party. Okay, they're part of the problem. They really are, guys. And so are the Republicans. So it's about time that we as activists escalated this movement, and we made Harvard and MIT know that look, guys, we're in the belly of the beast right here. What better place to have an explosive movement than right here? So anyway, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, I'm not here to tell you I'm running for Senate. That's not why I came. I've been an activist against Monsanto long before I ran for Senate. Running for Senate is hopefully an opportunity to build a movement, because any one of us is insignificant here. But we got to build a movement. That's what we need. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Shiva. Thank you. So it is very scary. What can you do? You can buy organic, buy non-GMO, garden. These are positive steps, but we need big change.
People were loving it.
And our next speaker is going to introduce himself more fully. For now, I'll just say Ebbs. Thank you so much.
It's been good. Good turnout. Got everyone here. Good Covenant members. We got everybody.
Hello, greetings. Hello, greetings.
Hello.
I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the rain. What I want to say, most importantly, is that you are very important. You have to lead the charge. You have to lead the change. And we have to do it with everything we do. I bought a bottle of water because I was very thirsty and parked the distance. And then I saw a water fountain not far by. I wanted to give him back the bottle of water and go to the fountain. But then I looked at the guy who was in the rain selling pretzels and water. So, but what I wanted to say is that every step that we make, may our focus be on walking the talk so that we can create the change. My name is, people call me Ebbs. And my whole name is David Eben Allenbar, also known as Eben 3 Arrows. I'm a member of Binarvana. On this day, at this time, I would like to thank very much all of the ancestors who brought us this far, and the earth and the sky, and we do that by this. So
No, guys, I'm Q. Okay?
Ya, hey, ya, hey, hey, ya. Oh, show no, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, hey,
It's kind of cool.
oh, show no, hey,
Did not see this coming. Like it though. This is cool.
Yeah, hey, hey, yeah, hey, Father Sky, Mother Earth, and all things my own up and down within them. I give thanks for this gift. We breathe the sweet breath that comes forth from my nostrils.
You're probably right,
It is our
Cindy.
desire that we may hear thy sweet voice, even the north winds in our limbs may be rejuvenated with life and love of thee. Give us thy hand, that we may receive it and live by it. Call out upon us and it can never fail. The dawning is beautiful in the horizons of heaven, O the beginning of life. When thou risest in the eastern horizons of the heaven, thou goest never by thee. For thou art great, beautiful, good, and high over the earth. Thy rays encompass the lands, even all thou hast made. Thou bindest us by thy love. Through thou art afar, thy rays are on earth. Through thou art afar, thy footprints are in clear. Paul.
Cindy, Krista, should that be the opening for STWT this week?
Thank you, Ev. All right, next up we have Tara Friedrich. She is a former Acton Select person, and I forget what else I was going to say about you.
All right, thank you so much, Margaret, for organizing and for being out here, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. And I promise I won't talk about myself too much. So, the first thing I want to say, though, is I discovered that the city councils, the boards of selectmen across the
Great
state,
quote, Jason
every
Harris.
year renew the business permits for all these companies. The permits don't get approved one by one. They come in a pile of paper, both sides covered, and they do not review any of the performance of those corporations before they approve these business permits. So one of the reasons I got unelected was that I challenged that. I said we should look at each one to decide if they're serving the Commonwealth. Because under the state constitution, corporations are supposed to serve the social compact. Corporations, when they were forming the idea of a corporation, they're very afraid of the idea of corporations taking over the government, taking over people. And so they create limits on the powers of the corporations, and that they weren't supposed to serve
my
or
God.
operate
Look at
as
this
a
group
right,
coming
but as a
across the street
privilege.
now. Holy shit.
So we've gone from effectively capitalism for the stakeholders, which is everybody. The original corporations were to build a bridge, a school, and then they were supposed to be dissolved. So we've gone from business for
YouTube
the
gold right
stakeholders
there.
to
That is
business
some
for the
YouTube
shareholders.
gold.
And just to put that in perspective, every dollar that gets spent on lobbying
Welcome
or
to Boston,
campaigning
everybody.
by the corporations pays a return of about 900%. You can't even make that kind of return on Wall Street. And yet our legislators do nothing. Under the state law, we could ban all of these activities. In fact, Pass Max Amendment is an organization
For giving me
built
shit
the State
chat
House
now. Yeah, I didn't even...
limit that is spent for out-of-state donors. We have several bills, so please check out passmassamendment.org. This is making change at the local, at the state level.
There you
Because
go.
is Washington ever going to help us?
They're leaving. They're not here for
Washington's
this.
never going to help us, folks. So why do we spend so much time talking about Washington? Talking about how we wish they would. Gosh, why don't they? Good golly, let's complain some more. No, we have that power now. Do you guys have the power to exist? Okay, so do we have the right to exist?
Yes.
Do we have the right to ensure that our laws protect our right to exist?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so 90% of the power to make change is right here at your city council. Another 5%'s up on the Hill. 5% only in Washington. We got all the power right here.
Do you have a right to subscribe to this channel? Yes.
Privileged community, but
hit that subscribe button.
We've gotten Occupy helped a lot with language and research, so we went back to Acton and tried to mobilize these people. They say, oh, we don't want fracked gas. Okay, then why is your Board of Selectmen approving these extensions to the gas lines with the curb cuts and the rights of way digging? All those permits get approved by you. Oh, we can't. We're nervous. We'll get sued. Guess what? You can't really get sued. As a selectman, I found out that to sue a municipality is such a high bar that all they have to do is file. You would be sure that you have that power. Your city council, your town board of selectmen have that power. They're not using them. Okay? We finally got the board of selectmen in Acton to our special counsel to prepare gas leaks that's going up into the air, and the ratepayers pay it. The gas company doesn't even pay to fix their own leaks, even though we pay them to fix it. They just take it in profit. So we made a bylaw, well, started to make the bylaw, extensions to fix the leaks.
Oh, come on, don't buffer.
Because they knew we were getting serious. So it's Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund. If anybody has ever heard of CELDEF, they're establishing rights of nature. The right for the trees, the grass, the weeds to exist.
No, the march is going to take place after the
New York,
talks.
Oregon now,
So,
these communities
I'll,
are using their local
film the march
legal
with the
rights
GoPro.
to push back on these corporations. And I can't think of anything else to say except for get your city council in order, run for office for goodness sakes. 300, I think it's 300 signatures to get on the ballot for state senate. What is it, 150 for state rep? That's like an afternoon's worth of work, right guys? You know you can do it. And so just get on the ballot. You win by getting on the ballot, right, Jed? We don't need to actually get on the seat to make a lot of difference, because as soon as you run for office, the newspaper's going to be calling you, the TV's going to be calling you, and you're going to talk, and guess what's going to happen? People are going to look to the other guy and say, you know, that's a pretty good idea, right? So we win by getting on the ballot. Thank you very much for organizing. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Very
Tara.
nice, very
Tara
nice.
Friedrichs. Awesome.
Very
All right,
nice.
our next speaker is Luis Sanchez. He's with the Venezuela Solidarity Committee. Thank you, Luis.
Hi, folks. How are you? Everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
No.
you so much. First, I'm looking this way. I want to thank you for bringing that spiritual moment to here, because we're talking about the land, we're talking about the seeds, and therefore we're talking about us and how we have to make that connection. Not that we have to, but we are naturally connected, and we're not starting to feel, but we can tell how we are being.
You can see people walk by, look, hey, maybe that guy doesn't know about GMOs. Now he's like, what the hell is this all about? I'll go home and look this shit
I
up.
also do some work with the Boston Mayday
Another
Coalition,
Woken 9
and
right
we
there.
are showing a movie at 6 p.m. down the street here at Encuentro Cinco. And the movie's called Harvest of Empire. And it talks, this gentleman wrote a book, he won an award for it, turned into a movie, and he talks about the history of immigrants. Why is it that
These
we
guys
come
want to
here
know.
as
He wants to know
immigrants?
what's
We
up.
come to
He's like, what the hell's going on?
because we
Look at
just-
him. He's like, what?
We just wanted
What's
to so
going
bad.
on?
No, a
What
lot
are
of
these
folks
people
have
talking
come
about?
because they're
I can't even pay
pushed
attention to the traffic. I'm so interested.
economically, socially,
Yep,
politically.
look away, look
And
away.
so the movie talks about, I'll be giving the handout. I hope to see a couple of people there. Okay. So who am I? that was a quick one, right? So, who am I? My name is Luis Sanchez again, and I'm here on behalf of the Boston Solidarity Committee. We are Boston Venezuela Solidarity Committee. I'm sorry. I got that. And what we do is we see, you know, all of us here will understand and know already what I'm
We had
going
a
to say,
good.
but we have seen the administration, which I don't like to call by its name. I don't respect it enough to call it by its name, so I call it the administration. Has declared war on Venezuela. That's it. It's a killer war. It's declared economic war. Venezuela is also. I want to ask a quick question. I want to see raising hands here. Does who knows here that half of us know, but the other half don't know because there's something you don't hear in the media. The media is not saying, look at all these Venezuelans. They're running out of Venezuela because they don't have any food, having forced upon them. The economic war that is being declared in Venezuela. See, what they really want to do.
All right, I'm gonna restart it because the buffering is getting really bad. Everybody is saying so. I'm gonna restart the stream.
Venezuela is part